In this video, we're going to talk about what it means to be a first-generation entrepreneur. Now, what is a first-generation entrepreneur? I am one, so I should know. It is any time that a person is the first person in their family to start a business. In my case, my parents were not entrepreneurs. My dad talked about it once in a while, but never really pulled the trigger. My grandfather was actually a pretty successful entrepreneur, but I didn't know him. And I didn't get to sit around the dinner table and talk to him about entrepreneurship. I didn't get to hear from him and have it normalized. So really, when we talk about first-generation entrepreneurs, we're saying this is the first person in their family to be starting and normalizing entrepreneurship, the journey of entrepreneurship. And first-generation entrepreneurs have very specific challenges. One of the reasons that I love working with first-generation entrepreneurs is because we really have to approach business in a holistic way, because we're not just training business skills, but we're also teaching the nervous system how to be okay with business, how to be okay with the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and what's happening in the day-to-day of running our business, no matter what that business is. So in this video, we've defined what a first-generation entrepreneur is. And we're also going to talk about the unique challenges of the first-generation entrepreneur. If you want to see future videos that address what those challenges are, please click like and subscribe and join us for more videos. So the first part of being a first-generation entrepreneur, the first challenge, is that entrepreneurship is not normalized. A lot of my friends who grew up in families with entrepreneurship are so comfortable with it. They were able to start their business. They were able to get tons of support from their parents to say like, oh, that didn't work. No big deal. You've got to fail a few times. You got to figure things out, make sure to launch your MVP or minimum viable product and test it a little bit, if not tweak. And they're not reacting in an emotional way, which has the entrepreneur not react in an emotional way. If you want to know what I mean, think about a kid when they fall down. If the parents are like, whoa, oh no, are you okay? Oftentimes the kid will burst into tears. Their emotion creates emotion in the child. The parent's emotion creates emotion in the child. It's similar with business. So when you start a business, if you're a first-generation entrepreneur and you're talking about how you didn't do that well that month, if you're in a family with people who, or surrounded by friends who aren't in entrepreneurship, they might second guess you. They might say, are you sure you're doing the right thing? Are you sure you want to do this? It sounds risky. It's not normalized. It's not made okay. It's not made part of the process. So just imagine if every time you tried something in your business, so there was someone on your shoulder that was like, oh, great, you're trying something new. We can be totally relaxed about this. We can see what data we get. That is the sort of environment in which people who are from entrepreneurial families grow up. And for those of us who are not, we don't get to have that. Or often we don't get to have that. We have to build our own confidence. We have to build a network around us of people that can normalize entrepreneurship. So that's part one. Part two, scrolling down because this is from my blog. You can't just go to business school. So I actually got a full ride. I was going to get paid to go to business school. And one of the reasons that I decided not to go was because I realized that business school wouldn't necessarily give me what I needed to be an entrepreneur. In fact, it might just take up some of my time and teach me a lot of things I didn't need to know. I looked at a lot of my friends who had gone to business school, and most of them weren't becoming entrepreneurs. They were going into companies. They were getting great six-figure jobs, but it wasn't really like they took the leap to entrepreneurship. And a lot of them ended up with debt, meaning that there was another level of uncertainty and disquiet around becoming an entrepreneur. So if those of us who are first-generation entrepreneurs could just go to business school, that would be delightful. And yet that's not how business school always works. Business school is great. I've got nothing against business school, but it's not always the silver bullet that we need. Mentors are not built in. This is number 3. Mentors are not built in. So one of the big reasons I didn't start my business earlier, it took me 10 years to start my business, is because I didn't know who to turn to for support. So I went to a business mentor, the SBA. I went to a psychologist because I was like, maybe there's something wrong with me. Why can't I start a business? I went and tried to get help from so many different people, but in many ways, I didn't know who exactly to turn to that would give me the best type of support. Luckily, I stumbled into it after a few years of trying. I met my first coach, and that was really what I needed to get started. But for someone that is in the world of entrepreneurship or comes from a world of entrepreneurs, people can throw all sorts of appropriate suggestions at you, or they can just mentor you themselves. Your parents can mentor you, or your aunt can mentor you, or whoever. But that's not necessarily the case for those of us who are first generation entrepreneurs. And we can spend a lot of time, in my case, 10 years, looking for the right support that can get us over that hump of fear, of uncertainty, of why can't I just get this thing off the ground? The next thing that first generation entrepreneurs face is that their first few years in business are not just about starting a company. I remember my first year in business where I was so scared and confronted about starting my company that sometimes I would just lay on my floor in a puddle of anxiety, having these anxiety attacks, because it was just so far outside of what I knew in my comfort zone that I wasn't handling it very well. So I'm sure that if I'd come in and known what I was doing, had mentors, that it would have been a bit easier. I know that starting a business can be scary and uncomfortable for anyone, even if they do have lots of support. But I was just so far outside of anything that anyone around me had ever lived or experienced that it really slowed me down, because I had to balance addressing the fear, taking time to do that, with the actions of building my business. And it was a rough start. The next part is that the learning curve is steep. So because you weren't exposed to entrepreneurship early on, you have to learn your lessons by trying things. And in some respects, this is true for any entrepreneur. But I know a good friend of mine whose parents are entrepreneurs, and they said, okay, you're getting started. Here's X, Y, and Z. You definitely want to do this. And let's check back in a week or a month and see how it's going, to see what we might need to tweak. I did not have that. Most first generation entrepreneurs I know did not have that. So even the simplest things around, how do I start a mailing list? What do I send? What do I not send? Like, what the heck is marketing? Those are things that I had to go and figure out on my own, and hire people to support me after I figured out who those people were, that otherwise I might have learned if I'd grown up in a family of entrepreneurs. So the next question, and this is just a teaser because we'll go more into it in future videos, is what can an aspiring first-generation entrepreneur do to support themselves? And the first thing is get support from others. So whether it's a business coach that has experience supporting people that are launching their first businesses, supporting people who are first-generation entrepreneurs, great. If it's someone that you know that has started a similar business and is willing to meet with you once a week, great. If it's meeting with your financial advisor, and if you don't have one, get one, that can tell you, okay, here's your runway. Really, this is how much money you have to spend before you need to be generating money. So know the facts, know your numbers, and if that intimidates you, go get support from people who can support you. Stop asking for advice before you start. This is especially true for the first generation entrepreneur, because in my case, I was asking for lots of advice from people who weren't entrepreneurs. The people around me were not entrepreneurs. And I was just going in this downward spiral of, I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. The people around me don't know how to do this. I'm even more scared. And down I went over and over and over again. The best thing you can do is start. Put one foot in front of the other. Sign up for something. Sign up for that MailChimp, or sign up for a YouTube channel. Just throw something out there and start to play. And I use the word play intentionally, because if we can see starting our businesses as a game, we're going to be able to take it with a bit of a lighter spirit than we might if we're seeing it as success or failure. The next thing I would recommend is to find a community. And there are so many ways to do this. There are great meetups. There are great online communities. My virtual co-working community, the Thriving Creator, is one of those. There are places that you can go to get, get co-working partners. There are community organizations near where you live. In any major city, you're going to have groups for entrepreneurs, or co-working spaces that include meetings or workshops for entrepreneurs. So find a community, because you're going to have to start building a community of entrepreneurs in order to get the support you really need, not just from professionals, but also from your peers. And the last thing, which I've said before, is to do something, anything. So any action you take will lead to valuable lessons learned. When I started my first travel company, Dance Adventures, way back in, gosh, I guess it was 2015, I had no idea how to run a travel company. I built the website not knowing who my customers would be, knowing nothing about business, and put it out there to the universe. And then not much happened. And then I tried a new thing. I was like, I wonder if I start a meetup group, I wonder if I go to meetups about dance and talk about it. Oh, I wonder if I can partner with people in country. If I tried to figure out what I was going to do before I started, I probably never would have started. So really do something, anything that's going to move you towards your goals, knowing that this is just part of the iteration process. If you liked anything from this video, let me know, share it in the comments, or head on over to my blog and leave a comment there and see what other people are posting.